Om Jnanatimidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupagada Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganathan Vitantang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakan Vitangscha He Krishna Kuruna Sindho Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Manchakalpachubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naramachaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudidayet Nasta Preshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Shevaya Bhagavar Yuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistaki. Today, Thursday, October, what is it, 3rd? 2024. The reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 24, Chanting the Song sung by Lord Shiva. And today's verse number 53 is continuing the song or the mantras given by Lord Shiva. Etad rupam anujayam atmashudhim abhipsatam yadbhakti yogo bhayadha sadharma manutishtatam etad rupam anujayam atmashudhim abhipsatam yadbhakti yogo bhayada sadharma manutishtatam etad rupam anujayam atmashudhim abhipsatam yadbhakti yogo bhayadaha sadharma manutishtatam
etad rupam anujayam
atmashudhim abhipsatam yadbhakti yogo bhayada swadharma manutishtatam etad rupam anujayam atmashudhim abhipsatam yadbhakti yogo bhayadaha swadharma manutishtatam
etad rupam
anujayam atmashudhim abhipsatam yadbhakti yogo bhayadaha sadharma manutishtatam etad rupam anujayam atmashudhim abhipsatam yadbhakti yogo bhayadaha sadharma manutishtatam etad rupam anujayam atmashudhim abhipsatam yadbhakti yogo bhayadaha sadharma manutishtatam. The synonyms, please repeat. Etad, this. Rupam, form. Anujayam, must be meditated upon. Atma, self. Shrudhim, purification. Abhipsatam, of those desiring so. Yat, that which. Bhakti yoga, the devotional service. Abhayadaha, factual fearlessness. Swadharmam, one's own occupational duties. Anutishtatam, executing. Translation, Lord Shiva is speaking. My dear Lord, those who desire to purify their existence must always engage in meditation upon your lotus feet as described above. Those who are serious about executing their occupational duties and who want freedom from fear must take to this process of bhakti yoga. Please repeat, my dear Lord, those who desire to purify their existence must always engage in meditation upon your lotus feet as described above. That's in the previous verse. Those who are serious about executing their occupational duties and who want freedom from fear must take to this process of bhakti yoga. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. It is said that the transcendental name, form, pastimes, and entourage of the Lord cannot be appreciated by the blunt material senses. Who knows the verse? I know you know it because you quoted it yesterday. It's Atak Sri Krishna Namadi Nabhavad Graham Indriyai Shevan Mukha Hijivadao Swayameva Sparatjada. Therefore, one has to engage himself in devotional service so that the senses may be purified and one can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Here, however, it is indicated that those who are constantly engaged in meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord are certainly purified of the material contamination of the senses and are thus able to see the Supreme Lord face to face. The word meditation is very popular in this age amongst the common people, but they do not know the actual meaning of meditation. Like someone may say, yes, I was meditating on getting my car fixed. But that is not meditation. However, from the Vedic literature, we learn that the yogis are always absorbed in meditation upon the lotus feet of the Lord. Jaina vashtita tadgatina manasa pasanti yam yoginaha. That's from Bhagavatam 12:13:1. This is the real business of the yogis, to think of the lotus feet of the Lord. Lord Shiva therefore advises that one who is actually serious about purification must engage himself in this type of meditation or in the mystic yoga system, which will help him not only to see the Lord within constantly, but to see him face to face and become his associate in Vaikuntha Loka or Goloka Vrindavan. The word Swadharmam, as in Swadharmam Anutishtitam, indicates that the system of Varnashrama, which indicates the occupational duties of the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, and which is the perfect institution for humanity, must be supported by bhakti yoga if one at all wants security in life. Generally, people think that simply by executing the occupational duties of a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra, or the duty of a Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, or Sannyasi, one becomes fearless or securely attains liberation. But factually, unless all these occupational duties are accompanied by bhakti yoga, one cannot become fearless. In Bhagavad Gita, there are descriptions of karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga, dhyana yoga, etc. But unless one comes to the point of bhakti yoga, these other yogas cannot help one attain the highest perfection of life. In other words, Bhakti Yoga is the only means for liberation. We find this conclusion also in Chaitanya Charitamrita, in a discussion between Lord Chaitanya and Ramananda Raya regarding a human being's liberation from this material world. In that discussion, Ramananda Raya referred to the execution of Varnashrama Dharma, and Lord Chaitanya indicated that the Varnashrama Dharma was simply external, ehobhai. Lord Chaitanya wanted to impress upon Ramananda Roy that simply by executing the duties of Varnashram, one is not guaranteed liberation. Finally, Ramananda Roy referred to the process of Bhakti Yoga. Stani stita shruti gatam tanuban manubir, Bhagavatam 10:14-3. Regardless of one's condition of life, if he practices Bhakti Yoga, which begins with hearing shruti gatam, the transcendental messages of the Lord through the mouths of devotees, he gradually conquers the unconquerable God. God is known to be unconquerable, but one who submissively hears the words of a self-realized soul conquers the unconquerable. The conclusion is that if one is serious about liberation, he should not only execute the occupational duties of Varnashram Dharma, but should also engage in Bhakti Yoga by beginning hearing from a realized soul. This process will help the devotee conquer the unconquerable Supreme Personality of Godhead and become his associate after giving up the material body. Etad rupam anujyayam atma shudhim abhipsitam yudhukti yogo bhayadaha dharmam anutishtatam. My dear Lord, those who desire to purify their existence must always engage in meditation upon your lotus feet as described above. Those who are serious about executing their occupational duties and who want freedom from fear must take to this process of Bhakti Yoga. Mukum karoti bachalam pangam lagayate girim jat kripa tamaham bande digunum dinatarinum. So, of course, this conclusion that one must execute Bhakti Yoga in order to attain the real perfection is the real conclusion of the Vedic literature. And Srila Prabhupada is very adamant and insistent upon presenting this fact of the supreme importance of Bhakti Yoga. And there are people who are interested in other forms of yoga, like Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, etc. But those don't have real value unless one accompanies it with bhakti or simply takes to bhakti in the places of those other things. And then Srila Prabhupada refers to the discussion between Ramananda Roy and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about the perfection of life. And therein Ramananda Roy quotes the verse, Jnana prayasam udupasya namanti evam jivanti sanmukaritam bhavadiya vartam stane stita shrutigatam tanuvan manobir iprayasa jito jitas pasti thrice trilokyam, which is from the 14th chapter of the 10th canto, prayers of Lord Brahma to Krishna after stealing the cowherd boys and the calves, and then Krishna manifesting his mystic potency and manifesting more calves and cowherd boys, much to the astonishment and chagrin of Lord Brahma, who then realizes his mistake in thinking that he could test Krishna's mystic power with his own mystic power. But he was defeated by Krishna's mystic power. And then his illusion is dispelled. For it's called the Brahma Vimohan Lila. The Vimohan, the illusion of Lord Brahma, was dispelled by Krishna exhibiting his superior potencies. And then Lord Brahma Krishna and offered these very wonderful prayers that constitute the 14th chapter of the 10th canto. And there are many, many famous and important verses contained in these prayers. And this one is the first one that's so important. Prabhupada refers to this verse throughout his writings. So, since he brings that up and brings up this discussion between Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Ramananda Roy, I thought we could go there in the 8th chapter of the Madhya Lila. If it was Star Trek, I would say, computer, call up Madhya 8. But I have to type this in. It will be that way, not too far in the future. Or if my computer skills were more expert, I would just go poof. Okay, let's see if that gets it. Page not found. Wow. Misspelled Madhya. Okay, let's try it again. Page not found. You have to have every little character correct. All right, that should get it. There it is. Talks between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Roy. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had gone on a journey to South India by foot. And after he had liberated Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya in Jagannath Puri, in the famous discussion of Vedanta Sutra, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had defeated Sarvabhauma, and Sarvabhauma experienced a change of heart, and he turned from a big, dry, puffed up Mayavadi into a great Vaishnava. And so he had tried to keep Lord Chaitanya and all the devotees, including Sarvabhauma, had tried to keep Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from leaving Jagannath Puri and going on Padayatra. They wanted him to just stay in Puri because they wanted his association. But the Lord said that he was going to go. So finally they allowed him to go. And Sarvabhauma said, you know, when you go to South India, you have to see Ramananda Roy. He says, I don't know anything of the science of Krishna, but Ramananda Roy, he knows everything about the science of Krishna. No one knows more than him. And you must see him and talk with him. Of course, Ramananda Roy is one of the eternal associates of the Lord. And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did go and see Ramananda Roy by the banks of the river Godavari. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to the river and took his bath. And while he was there, Ramananda Roy came with his entourage. Ramananda Roy was a very big governor of Madras, of a large chunk of South India. And so he was accompanied by this entourage of over 1,000 men, including learned brahmanas chanting mantras and military men and this whole big thing. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw him come, and he could understand, this is Ramananda Roy that Sarvabhauma was telling me. And then Ramananda Roy saw Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sitting there, and he was so effulgent. He was so effulgent. He was exhibiting his Brahman effulgence. And Ramananda Roy was blown away by that. And not only that, but all the brahmanas and the soldiers and everyone accompanying Ramananda saw the effulgence of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu too. They were astonished. And then Lord Chaitanya and Ramananda Roy met, and they embraced each other, because after all, it is Krishna and one of his old servants, Vishaka Gopi. And they were embracing, and as they embraced, they were both exhibiting ecstatic symptoms of tears and fading of the body and crying, and they fell down on the ground, and the whole entourage was going, "Well, what's this? This brilliant sannyasi has embraced a Shudra." Ramananda Roy is a Shudra from the Shudra class. And it's like, and then they're both falling down in ecstasy. We've never seen anything like this. Even Ramananda Roy told him, you know, according to Vedic injunctions, you shouldn't even touch me. I'm untouchable for you as a Brahmin sannyasi. But the master and the servant came together, and then Lord Chaitanya said, you go ahead and take your bath now, and then come back later, and we'll meet together privately and discuss Krishna Katha. So, and at that time, one Brahmana, Vaishnava, came forward and invited Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to his house for lunch, which he accepted that invitation. And then later in the evening, they met up again. This time Ramananda Roy was not in his royal dress. He was just dressed in regular Vaishnava clothes. And they began to discuss. So beginning from text 57 of the 8th chapter, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ordered Ramananda Roy, recite a verse from the revealed scriptures concerning the ultimate goal of life. And Ramananda's reply is, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, is worshipped by the proper execution of prescribed duties in the system of Varna and Ashrama. There is no other way to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One must be situated in the institution of the 4 Varnas and Ashramas. And that's a famous verse from the Vishnu Purana. By the way, this chapter is replete with important, famous verses, as we have discussed before, that is the characteristic of Chaitanya Charitamrita. It has all the important verses. If you simply study Chaitanya Charitamrita and learn all the important, and you will know everything you need to know and everything you need to preach. So that verse is Varnashram Charvata Purushena Parak Pumang Vishnur Arajite Panta Nanya Tat Toshakaranam. And of course, we just read the translation from the Vishnu Purana. The Lord replied, this is external. You had better tell me of some other means. In other words, this is not good enough. That's not the real answer I'm looking for. Ramananda Roy continued, my dear son of Kunti, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer in sacrifice, whatever you give in charity, and what austerities you perform, all the results of such activities should be offered to me, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yat karoshi, yat ashnashi, yat zadasi tapasya, yat tapasya shakonti, tat karusha manarpanam. From the Bhagavad Gita. This is also external, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said. Please proceed and speak further on this matter. Ramananda Roy replied, to give up one's occupational duties in the Varnashram system is the essence of perfection. Ramananda Roy continued, occupational duties are described in the religious scriptures. If one analyzes them, he can fully understand their qualities and faults, and then give them up completely to render service under the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a person is considered a first-class man. As stated in Scripture, Bhagavad Gita 1866, after giving up all kinds of religious and occupational duties, if you come to me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and take shelter, I will give you protection from all of life's sinful reactions. Do not worry. Of course, that's Sarvadharman Puritya Jahamamikam Sharanam Vraja. After hearing Ramananda Roy speak in this way, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again rejected his statement. Eho Bhaya, this is not sufficient, and said, go ahead and say something more. Ramananda Roy continued, according to the Bhagavad Gita, one who is thus transcendently situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed toward every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. Of course, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma Nasochati Nakangchati Samak Sarveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktim Labate Param. After hearing this, the Lord, as usual, rejected it, considering it to be external devotional service. He again asked Ramananda Roy to speak further, and Ramananda Roy replied, pure devotional service without any touch of speculative knowledge is the essence of perfection. And here we have the verse that Srila Prabhupada refers to in the purport. Ramananda Roy continued, Lord Brahma said, my dear Lord, those devotees who have thrown away the impersonal conception of the absolute truth and have therefore abandoned discussing empiric philosophical truths should hear from self-realized devotees about your holy name, form, pastimes, and qualities. They should completely follow the principles of devotional service and remain free from illicit sex, gambling, intoxication, and animal slaughter. Surrendering themselves fully with body, words, and mind, they can live in any ashram or social status. Indeed, you are conquered by such persons, although you are always unconquerable. Stane stitam shruti gatim tanuvan manobir. So remaining in your social position, go on executing the activities of Krishna consciousness. At this point, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, this is all right. So this is the beginning of his accepting the presentation of Ramananda Roy. All right, now you're talking. This is all right, but still you can speak more on the subject. And Ramananda Roy continued, as long as there is hunger and thirst within the stomach, varieties of food and drink make one feel very happy. You have that experience? In relation to prasadam especially, of course. Similarly, when the Lord is worshipped with pure love, the various activities performed in the course of that worship awaken transcendental bliss in the heart of the devotee. And that is a verse from the Padyavali of Srila Rupa Goswami, text number 13, as is the next verse. Pure devotional service in Krishna consciousness cannot be had even by pious activity in hundreds and thousands of lives. It can be attained only by paying one price, that is, intense greed to obtain it. If it is available somewhere, one must purchase it without delay. Hearing up to the point of spontaneous love, the Lord said, this is all right, but if you know more, please tell me. A man becomes purified simply by hearing the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose lotus feet create the holy places of pilgrimage. Therefore, what remains to be attained by those who have become his servants? By serving you constantly, one is freed from all material desires and is completely pacified. When shall I engage as your permanent eternal servant and always feel joyful to have such a perfect master? In that verse, is from the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam and is spoken by Dhirodatta Muni in relation to his cursing Maharaj Ambarish. By serving you constantly, one is freed from all material desires and is completely pacified. When shall I engage as your permanent eternal servant and always feel joyful to have such a perfect master? Hearing this from Ramananda Roy, the Lord again requested him to go a step further. In reply, Ramananda Roy said, loving service to Krishna rendered in fraternity is the highest perfection. So then he goes from fraternity to parental love, finally to conjugal love. There's a nice verse about fraternity. Neither those engaged in the self-realization of appreciating the Brahman effulgence of the Lord, nor those engaged in devotional service while accepting the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Master, so we got impersonal realization and dasya, nor those under the clutches of Maya, thinking the Lord an ordinary person, can understand that certain exalted personalities, after accumulating volumes of pious activities, Prabhupada also says heaps of pious activities, are now playing with the Lord in friendship as cowherd boys. Oh, this statement is very good, the Lord said, but please proceed even further. And then he goes on to bring up the Vatsalya Ras, the parental Ras. And speaking of Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda, that the favor Mother Yashoda obtained from Sri Krishna, the bestower of liberation, was never obtained even by Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva, nor even by the goddess of fortune, but always remains on the chest of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord said, your statements are certainly getting better and better, one after the other, but surpassing all of them is another transcendental mellow. And you can speak of that as the most sublime. So then he speaks of the Madhurya Ras. He talks about the dancing of the gopis with Krishna. When the gopis were embraced around the neck by the Lord's arms. And then he makes this interesting statement. It is true that whatever relationship a particular devotee has with the Lord is the best for him. Still, when we study all the different methods from a neutral position, we can understand that there are higher and lower degrees of love. Increasing love is experienced in various tastes, one above another. But that love, which has the highest taste in the gradual succession of desires, manifests itself in the form of conjugal love. So he explains that there's a taste in each rasa, and there is a transcendental order of the rasas from dasya, sakya, vatsalya, and madhurya. So there's a certain taste in dasya. And then the next rasa of increasing taste is sakya. So the flavor one experiences, one tastes in sakya ras, includes the taste of dasya ras, but it has additional qualities. Similarly, in vatsalya rasa, the flavors, the tastes that one experiences in dasya and sakya are included, but there's more to it than that. And then finally, when one comes to the conjugal rasa, the madhurya ras, the highest of the transcendental flavors of relationship with the Lord, all the other tastes that are in the other rasas are included in the Madhurya Ras. So it is all encompassing. As the qualities increase, so the taste increases in each and every mellow. And then he gives an example. The qualities in the material elements, sky, air, fire, water, and earth, increase one another by a gradual process of 1, 2, and 3. And at the last stage in the element earth, all 5 qualities are completely visible. Taste, touch, sound, form, and then smell. All those included in the most gross of the elements, earth. So from subtle to gross, there are gradual increases. Lord Krishna told the gopis, "The means of attaining my favor is loving service unto me, and fortunately you are all thus engaged. Those living beings who render service to me are eligible to be transferred to the spiritual world and attain eternal life with knowledge and bliss. Lord Krishna has made a firm promise for all time. If one renders service unto him, Krishna correspondingly gives him an equal amount of success in devotional service to the Lord." And then he quotes Bhagavad Gita 4:11. "Ye yatam mam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham." As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone that follows my path in all respects, Manushya Partha Sarvasha, O son of Pritha. However, in the 32nd chapter, which is included in the 5 chapters of the Rasa dance, Lord Krishna cannot proportionally reciprocate devotional service in the Madhurya Ras. He says to the gopis, I can, my dear gopis, our meeting here is certainly free of all material contamination. I must admit that in many lives, it would be impossible for me to repay my debt to you because you have cut off the bondage of family life just to search for me. Consequently, I am unable to repay you. Therefore, please be satisfied in your honest activities in this respect. So Krishna's exchange of love with the gopis is the topmost perfection of love of Godhead. Lord Chaitanya replied, "This is certainly the limit of perfection, but please be merciful to me and speak more if there is more." And then Ramananda Roy says, "Until this day, I did not know anyone within this material world could inquire beyond this perfectional stage of devotional service." And so he goes on to talk more about the conjugal love. And Lord Chaitanya says, "Please speak on. I am very happy to hear you because a river of unprecedented nectar is flowing from your mouth." And then Ramananda Roy says, "Then hear from me about the glories of Srimati Radharani's loving affairs." So he's going further. I'm going to skip the detailed description, but there's a couple other statements I'd like to read. Talking about how Radharani left the Rasa dance. And because she left, Krishna was like, "Hey, I'm with all these other gopis, but where's Radha?" And then he disappeared from the Rasa dance because he wanted Radha's love the most. After hearing this, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said to Ramananda Roy, "That for which I have come to your residence has now become an object of truth. In my knowledge. Now I have come to understand the sublime goal of life and the process of achieving it. Nevertheless, I think that there is something more ahead, and my mind is desiring to have it." Kindly explain all these truths to me, but for yourself, no one can understand them. Sri Ramananda Roy replied, I do not know anything about this. I simply vibrate the sound you make me speak. I simply repeat like a parrot whatever instructions you have given me. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. Who can understand your dramatic performances? Oops. All right, computer. You inspire me within the heart and make me speak with the tongue. I do not know whether I'm speaking well or badly. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, this is extremely relishable. I am a Mayavadi in the renounced order of life, and I do not even know what transcendental loving service to the Lord is. I simply float in the ocean of Mayavad philosophy. Due to the association of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, my mind became enlightened. Therefore, I asked him about the truth of transcendental loving service to Krishna. Sarvabhauma told me, I do not actually know about the topics of Lord Krishna. They are all known only to Ramananda Roy. He is not present here. After hearing about your glories, I have come to your place, but you are offering me words of praise out of respect for sannyasi, one in the renounced order of life. And then the Lord speaks a very, very important and famous verse. Hiba biba kriba nyasi shudrokeninai ye Krishna tattva vete se guru hai. Whether one is a brahmana, a sannyasi, or shudra, regardless of what he is, he can become a spiritual master if he knows the science of Krishna. Ye Krishna tattva vete se guru hai. He can become a guru if he knows Krishna tattva, the science of Krishna. The Lord continued, please do not try to cheat me, thinking of me as a learned sannyasi. Please satisfy my mind by just describing the truth of Radha and Krishna. Ramananda Roy was a great devotee of the Lord and a lover of God, and although his mind could not be covered by Krishna's illusory energy, and although he could understand the mind of the Lord, which was very strong and intense, Ramananda's mind became a little agitated. And this is an extremely wonderful verse he speaks. Sri Ramananda Roy said, I am just a dancing puppet, and you pull the strings. Whichever way you make me dance, I will dance. My dear Lord, my tongue is just like a stringed instrument, and you are its player. Therefore, I simply vibrate whatever arises in your mind. Ramananda Roy began to speak on Krishna Tattva. And he goes on, and he begins to describe deeper and deeper and deeper into the philosophy of Krishna consciousness and the relationship with Radha and Krishna. And then there comes a moment in Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu covers Ramananda's mouth with his hand and says, don't speak anymore. We cannot continue this discussion because it's in the pages of Chaitanya Charitamrita, so not everyone can hear this. So it's one of my favorite things. He covers the mouth of Ramananda Roy. So this is a very wonderful exposition of Krishna consciousness, this discussion between Ramananda Roy, and especially Ramananda's admission that I don't even know what I'm talking about. I mean, I've gone way past what I know, and you're just making me speak. You're vibrating me like a musician playing an instrument. I'm the instrument, and you're the player, and you're vibrating me and making me sing these melodies. Or I'm just like a puppet, and you're the master pulling the strings. So it's a very wonderful discussion. There's a lot more to it than what we've covered here because of time considerations. But if you get the opportunity, read chapter 8 of the Madhya Lila of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, and you will experience higher and deeper understandings of Krishna consciousness, which will help elevate you back home, back to Godhead. So we'll stop here for questions, comments, and realizations.
The speech of the glories of Ramananda Roy. Pradyumna Mishra came to Lord Chaitanya wanting instruction in Krishna consciousness, and he was sent by Lord Chaitanya to Ramananda Roy, and Ramananda Roy was bathing the Devi Dasis naked, but he was unaffected. He said it was like touching stone, because he was internally he was seeing himself as a gopi. So when Lord Chaitanya said no one in the entire universe can imitate Ramananda Roy.
Lord Chaitanya said, he said, if I even see a wooden doll in the form of a woman, my mind becomes agitated. What to speak of Ramananda Roy and his intense fixation in the devotional service of Krishna, far beyond the bodily platform. So there's a warning also there. Do not try to imitate Ramananda Roy and serve the gopis. In the old days of ISKCON, the men in the temple referred to the ladies as the gopis, called them the gopis. And that's very nice consciousness. These are Krishna's gopis, Krishna's ladies. And it is not meant for my enjoyment. It is for Krishna. So keep your hands off. Very nice consciousness. Did you have a question?
Abel.
Yes,
So we referred to 4 of the rasas, but not the rasa of awe and reverence. Is that
Shanta.
Shanta rasa? Is that by? So my question is, in relationship with the subjects discussed, is that maybe the Varnashram system is the Shanta rasa or something like this?
Well, the Shanta rasa is the beginning of self-realization, but it's not considered one of the stages of love of God. The love of God begins at Dasya. As Prabhupada has instructed us in his books, and especially if you read Nectar of Devotion. So even though there are the 5 rasas, sometimes it's referred to as there are 4 rasas, beginning with Dasya, and then Shakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. So, because in neutrality, the sense of the relationship is not fully developed and manifest. Therefore, it's called neutrality. One is neutral. But in Dasya, it's not neutrality. Hey, you're my friend. You know, the cowherd boys, they climb on Krishna's shoulders. They joke with him. Yeah, like that song, ain't it just like a friend of mine to hit me from behind? I'm going to Goloka in my mind. In my mind, I'm going to Goloka. Can't you just see the cowherd boys? So, yes, the Shanta is kind of separate from the other 4 rasas, but it is the beginning stage. And there are those who are fully satisfied being situated in Shanta rasa. It's not like, Shanta rasa is just nonsense, crap, garbage. No, it's not like that. But the real development of loving exchanges begins from Dasya and then moves up. So yeah, that's an important point to understand. Very technical, actually. But it's the theistic science of bhakti that you do not find this type of a deep understanding of relationship of the living entity to the Lord anywhere else in any other literature or spiritual tradition. It's a fact. All right, anyone else? All right, then. Very good. Thank you for your kind attention. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Sri Ramananda Roy ki jai, Lord Shiva ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.